We do live in an interesting world, and we live in a world, unfortunately, or fortunately in some cases, where people have achieved goals and objectives, and other people look up to them as heroes, or at least as people that they would like to emulate. And what the difference is between heroism, which exists on every level, is the platform. If you have a platform that has 900,000 followers on Instagram or a million followers someplace else, we have a tendency to kind of listen to those people as if they're speaking, some level of truth, or they're giving you some insight, and they're easy to follow because so many other people are following them. But true heroism and true, I don't know if you want to call it success, but true heroism is partially the idea of being able to accomplish a goal that betters people around you and may better your own family, etc. So let's start with a simple example. I'm a mother of three, and my husband has left, and as a result, I'm struggling for day-to-day existence, and in order to take care of my family, get three jobs. And at the same time I get those three jobs, they bring in X number of dollars, but I make sure that my family can eat, I make sure that my family is safe, and I give them information that is internalized by them. Well, that's heroic. That's something much more meaningful. You don't need a newspaper, or you don't need a television to talk about it. But the three children and yourself that are being affected by your sacrifice and what you've done has an organic way to spread. And those three children, theoretically, would become products of that heroic act of their mother. And the same thing is true for a father or a friend or a brother or a sister. It's not someone looking to be a hero. It's someone who acts as a hero. It's someone who acts as a person that has an effect on other people. Now, over the years, I would certainly not consider myself a hero, and I certainly don't consider myself, a sports celebrity or a TV person. I've done my share of things, but they've been on a very small scale, and they've been relatively confined. But when I've had the opportunity to speak to large groups or to speak to an individual and his or her family, there are things that are transmitted that become sometimes indelible in that person's mind, and that person carries on your philosophy, your direction, your insight, and it is something that has enormous impact. Now, heroism is something that can be used for good and something that can be used for detriment. There have been people that some call heroes that have led us down a path that have been counterproductive, but we believed in that path because he or she was glorified in some way by the press or something else. Being a great actor and having a great career, a multi-Emmy winner, or a Golden Globe winner or an Oscar winner, does not mean that you can cut my son's hair. It doesn't mean that you can come in and clean up the office effectively. And conversely, a person who gives you a great haircut and can clean up your office is not necessarily a potential CEO. So what ends up happening is we have a tendency as a nation to extrapolate this platform that people have and use it as a way to say, you see, so-and-so said this, or so-and-so did this. And that's not what heroism is. The strict, interpretation of heroism, or a person that makes a difference, is someone who will do something in the face of adversity, or in the face of controversy or in the face of something that is not in alignment with some other people's thoughts. And as a result, whether you have the words to teach effectively, or whether you just by your actions do something. I'm harking back to Rosa Parks. I don't know if Rosa Parks said anything in when she sat in the front of the bus, or if just the act itself sat in front of the bus. And Rosa Parks was certainly not a 12 or 11-year-old Black woman growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, or whatever city she grew up in, and said, one day I'm going to be a hero. But yet Rosa Parks changed the value system, or changed hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of people as to what was right and what was potentially wrong. And I see that as heroic. So I think people perform heroic deeds every day, and I am personally energized, and I am personally emotionally engaged in those acts that don't get the credit, that don't have the platform, but it should never stop any of us for doing what we believe, and it should never stop any of us from taking chances, and it should never stop any of us not of being controversial, but being able to speak our own minds. And I think that history books are filled with heroic acts that never receive the visibility and or the credibility that they deserve. So I look at a parent struggling to keep their children safe and fed and aligned academically, the same way I would treat someone who saved a battalion of men in a war, or someone who went on stage and said certain things. I don't treat politicians as necessarily heroic. I treat their actions and what they stand for as heroism. I don't treat actors and other people, professional sports. I remember when at Nike we did the commercial with Charles Barkley, and he said, "I am not a role model." It created enormous negative response because they said, "Well, you're a basketball player. You got to be a role model." And what he said was, "I'm more interested in what your parents think and your grandparents and your friends and so forth and so on. I'm not a role model." And we constantly are fighting ourselves on these things. And because the platforms have gotten so large, we make the people on that platform larger than life. The converse of that is generally a short-lived activity if you don't continue it and you're not seen as a person who's an advocate for it, where the mother or father or the family that's struggling, it is an ongoing effort. It is something they do day in and day out. And they're not seeking a pat on the back. They're not seeking adulation from people. They do what they think is best. They make their decisions. They move forward. And to me, that's heroic.